Good evening, friends. Welcome all. Namaskara, namaste to one and all here who have come live on Facebook, on YouTube, and through my tool also. This is new way of greeting. We have been telling namaste in India. Now everyone is following namaste as a greetings now. So this new protocol is followed elsewhere also outside India. Thanks to our culture with that we have inherited. Uh, Today we have Rajesh Nambiar, who is the director for UiPath. It's pleasure to have Rajesh. Thank you so much for taking your time. I was. I know that this was a hectic day for you. Morning, you were there at Tamil Nadu addressing the student community. It was a too tight schedule for you, but in spite of this, you made the time to come and address my engineering students, and we have few students from who have aspiring to take up the engineering course, and we also have a few faculties who have joined from my college and also from other colleges also. We have not only the students from my college, we also have the students from other part of the Karnataka also. uh, Thanks for your time, Rajesh. Will you start with a brief introduction about you? I thought I should introduce you, but it's good
All
that
right.
you
So,
can take it forward. Yeah.
all right. So, thank you so much, sir. I think thank you for the introduction. It's always a pleasure to connect with students, learn, share what we have, and coincidentally, um, COVID crisis has also opened up a new opportunity for students, which is digital learning. Right? Though, though the technology was there in the past, we've probably not explored it. But then this new crisis has pushed us to explore this technology, which will definitely help students, because what we are talking about with digital learning platforms coming in is accessing it anywhere and at your convenience. So hopefully today we will be able to give in some good insight to students, and I'll be happy to spend more time. So as just to give a formal introduction for folks who are connected here, my name is Rajesh Nambiar. I head an academic program. I head an academic program for a AI-based company called UiPath. We are here with this. We are driving a vision as part of the program to make a robo for every student possible. Right. So we are driving this new vision to get a robot assistant to every desktop or every PC. Imagine a new world where you don't have to do those mundane jobs, and then a robot can actually do that. It's been about 2 years for me, close to about 2 years for me with this company. Prior to this, I've spent about close to about 15 years working with industry academic programs, building and working with colleges and ensuring, getting new technologies out to students. So prior to this, I've worked with Salesforce, VMware, and of course, a big part of my career with EMC, the erstwhile storage company that all of you can relate. I have a mechanical engineering degree, but like most of us here, my passion was to do something else. So today, I am more of a skill advocate. So I work with teachers to fulfill this dream of having a country of young talents who have the right skills. So that's exactly, that's what we've been doing with our program, and hope to continue the effort in the future as well. So.
Thanks for your brief introduction. I want to tell a few things what Rajesh usually don't specify. He's very concerned about the community, about the society. He has raised his voice against the system. Either it could be the corruption or any other thing. If you follow Rajesh on Twitter, on Facebook, or LinkedIn, he's a totally different type of person. A small example that wherever he travels, somewhere he sees some flaw in the system or some defects, he takes the pic and shoots into the social media. And I want to tell you that used to shoot or tweet to railway minister with lot of flaws in the system in railways, where Ministry of Railways used to started following Rajesh Nambiar. In fact, Piyush Goyal, who was the Ministry of Railways at that moment, if you go and check it out, Piyush Goyal follows Rajesh Nambiar. So what I feel with Rajesh is that uh, uh, honesty and integrity and ethics, these are all certain words he has been practicing in all his career. It touches my heart that many times we always start speaking in a teaching community, but it's too difficult to practice. But he has shown to the world that yes, this all could be put into the place. I request the people who are here joined, kindly go, when you, if you're on the mobile, go to Facebook, face to Twitter, on LinkedIn. Just follow Rajesh Nambiar. I think many times we follow a lot of people on social media, and many times we felt it's a waste of time. But it's, I trust me, it's worth following Rajesh Nambiar. A lot of gyan and lot of things will come down to us. With this brief introduction, I think let us start the session, Rajesh. It's
Sure.
very interactive session. It's nothing like this. It's very casual. Just we pose questions. I pose questions to Rajesh Nambiar about what is this program is all about, and he, whatever he feels, he is going to answer to all the complete people who are here.
Sure.
To start with, Rajesh, you've been associated with UiPath. Uh, uh, what made you to join UiPath?
A good question. So,
What is UiPath and what made you to join UiPath?
okay, so I think that's a good question there, because my previous employer was Salesforce. We were running a program to drive adoption for Salesforce at that time. But I think what I liked about UiPath was the vision that they had, and the vision to disrupt the future of work and make an impact to the society. So my decision to primarily join Salesforce was primarily driven by the vision of the CEO and our leadership team, where they said, the technology is disruptional, and we also have this opportunity to make a positive impact on the society. So that was primarily the other reason why I decided to join them, so that we could open up new opportunities for India in terms of skill development, and which could help our youngsters to find good opportunities, not just in India but just abroad as well. Yes.
Fine. Thank you, Rajesh. Yeah. Uh, Rajesh, UiPath has been rated as one of the highest valued AI startup, artificial intelligence startup. Uh, People know that UiPath means RPA. Is it something UiPath doing beyond RPA? What's it all about?
Yeah. So as a company, the company started from Romania, out of a small house or room in Romania. But then over the years, at least in the last 3 years, the technology that they have been advocating has found a lot of prominence, which is robotic process automation, right? So the whole idea was, we as human beings have been gifted by a unique capability which is not there with any other living being in this world, which is our intelligence. And in the last couple of decades, or maybe last 30-40 years to look in, we've probably forgotten how to use our intelligence. So the whole idea of that actually was driving the thought process within our founders was to create a technology that could help that could help employees free up their time and look at using it for much better purpose. And I'm sure you could relate it to you. How many times have we gone to an office and we've probably realized that the whole day we've spent so much of time and energy and effort, and later realized that we've probably only done meetings, we've replied to emails, we've not done anything productive for that to look in. So the whole idea of the technology coming into relevance for UiPath was to free up human beings from these repetitive or mundane jobs, and then help them use their intelligence for better purposes. Now, what's happened? What's the correlation between AI and RPA? Of late, people have technology has evolved, where we are now trying to see if we can add a little bit of intelligence, right? So I probably want to relate the adoption of this technology to what we've seen. So if you look at our life side, at least in my lifetime, where I'm sure when we were in college, one of the biggest things that we would love to carry, this was much before a mobile phone came in, was a pocket calculator, right? We would love to carry a personalized diary or thing that could, that had that on which you could save numbers, and somebody who would come in from Middle East or somebody somewhere else, that would actually have been a device that if they would actually flaunt as a luxury at that time, right? And that was an assistant at that for them at that time to look at. Slowly we saw PCs coming in, and that technology moving out, and then we saw PCs coming in. And then with PCs coming in, we saw the evolution of internet connecting all these PCs across. That made it more, more accessible for people. Now, with PCs, internet, the next evolution was how do we get it to hand, more to your hand, to your hand, to accessible on your hand, and that's how the mobile came in, where mobile basically became your personal assistant. And I think from a technology perspective, what we believe the next future, after starting from a pocket calculator, PC, internet, mobile, the next thing that could drive a big revolution in the industry or in the technology space is a personalized robot assistant, right? A robot which runs on your laptop or on your desktop. It could and could do jobs that you probably do not want to do, right? And that's the future that we are looking at, and that is something that is seeing a lot of adoption. While we see more adoption for this technology, we also are seeing a lot of push from people in terms of seeing how best we can integrate AI and other capabilities into the platform to bring in some kind of intelligence for that. So what you're slowly seeing as a transformation, not just as for RPA, is also that every RPA company is now trying to bring in intelligence into the platform and see that it gives more advantage to the user. Now, with respect to UiPath, what has happened for us is we've taken a similar approach, but then what we've done is we've created a platform across which we could rather than being a single line product, we've created a portfolio of products which make automation accessible for everybody. So it could be desktop automation. It could be, now we have a new product. We have a couple of new products coming in, which is also test automation for that purpose to look in, right? And then we also have a new capabilities being built in terms of chatbots coming in. So anything that can be an assistant for people is what we are moving to, and that's what you're seeing the evolution of UiPath into, right? So you're seeing the company move from a single product to address an entire platform where you could connect every bits and pieces of technology into that, right?
Okay, thank you, Rajesh. Rajesh, what we see today, the big buzz is from automation to hyper automation. Many people are aware of automation. Even my students, engineering students, knows about what is automation. We have few participants who are aspiring to take up engineering course. They are very layman, they don't know automation. Probably a computer science folk or many people will understand automation. We'll start with telling about what is this automation, and down the line we can tell about how we are actually moving from automation to hyper automation. Please.
Okay, so for me, I think anything that can automate, that can move things that can eliminate a human from the entire interface and help work smoothly is automation for me, right? So, and if you look at, let's look at our COVID crisis for that purpose. The crisis that we have faced, with companies having to work out of home offices. People not able to go to their offices to do things. What you're seeing is that they still need to run companies. They still need to do things with minimum manpower. But then, what could be the technology that could come to their assistance? And I think that's where automation actually comes in to help people, help them, aid folks in terms of leveraging it to ensure the businesses run smoothly, right? So it could be as simple as for me, automation could be as simple as a customer service experience, right? So for example, for us, in Bangalore, we have Big Basket Daily, which delivers milk and groceries to our society here, right? So while we chat with if there is a complaint, if there is a return, the first approach that you do is we actually chat with a bot on the user interface, and then it's first typically has a standard set of questions that you answer, and then finally once you have once you complete those standard requirement, then it hands it over to a human being, right? So instead of getting a human being into the first discussion, there are certain steps that which probably a bot could automate, and which frees up, which basically takes out the workload for that. And especially for a company like Big Basket and others who have been working during the lockdown, they've been, I believe they're working at half their manpower, right? So automation is like an additional assistant that we are looking at. So what we need to understand is, while we talk about automation, the other side of automation is that it is also a tool that will work in sync with humans and try to help them improve their efficiency, right? Rather than looking at it something that can work independently, I would actually say that it is a helping hand for a human. It's an extended arm for a human, which will help him drive better performance and operations from the entire technology to look at. So that's predominantly my definition of automation. It could be anything, right? It could be about any process that can be as simple as like I said, customer service, for that to look in. It could be a WhatsApp. All of you have a WhatsApp. The government of India's WhatsApp interface, where you have a set of questions, but then automatically the bot on the back end automates and then replies back to you. Only when it comes to a stage where you need somebody to talk to the person that is on the other side, you actually see somebody coming in, right? And that's as simple automation that we can talk about. Now imagine if we can bring this across the organization. From a chat, can we take it to enterprises? Can we take it to a desktop, right? So if you probably want to take a tea break and you've been doing something which is like click, something which is as easy to do, all you need is, you can probably go take a tea break and give it to a bot to actually work on, right? So that's the kind of world that we're looking in, where automation is expected to relieve human beings of the tedious tasks that there's tasks that they've been doing, and free up some time for them to think about something else as well.
Okay. Yes, no, you told about automation very nice, but my second part of the same question was
the hyper automation.
We are moving from hyper automation. We are moving. People are. I think automation is not just a simple word today. It's getting absolute. People are telling about hyper automation. What do you feel? What is hyper automation is all about?
Correct. So the word hyper automation has come into relevance after Gartner actually quoted hyper automation as the #1 technology trend in one of their recent top 10 strategic technologies for 2020. Right. So that's the predominant reason why why industry has now started. The word was coined after Gartner brought in this to the mainstream. But then, what is hyper automation? The definition for hyper automation is a platform, is a concept where all technologies which enable human beings work together, right? It could be AI, it could be machine learning, it could be robotic process automation, it could be process mining. So we are looking at a new world where all four of these traditionally strong automation products or technologies who were working in silos are expected to come together and make a bigger impact, right? So my definition of hyper automation would be 4 big powerhouses coming together and making a bigger impact with all their positive capabilities that each one of them can bring into them, right? So that's predominantly the hyper automation space that we're looking at. Now, Gartner actually ranked hyper automation as a #1 trend under people-centric approach. So what they've defined, they had 2 different approaches that they said. One was people-centric, and the other was from a workspace specific. It could be IoT and other technologies to look at. So technologies that could make real impact for human beings, right? What can actually make real impact for the future of work that we are looking at is where they actually categorize hyper automation as, right? So that's the space that we're looking in, where all these 4 technologies come together and create a bigger impact. So what we're seeing now is a lot of companies in this space, including UiPath and others in the space, are trying to leverage the power of all these 4 technologies and trying to create that bigger impact that they can do by leveraging the good parts of each of them and trying to put it into across their platform.
Okay, to simplify it for the people, it's probably what I understand is that uh, hyper automation is going to come out as a single platform where all technologies like AI path, uh, I'm sorry, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, deep learning, machine learning, all this can be converged at one single platform, and lot of things can be leveraged from this. And probably when we converge all these technologies on one single platform, it could be a bigger social impact, and a lot of other innovations can also unfold. I
Correct.
think
Correct.
this is what I also feel to simplify with the
Correct.
student community also.
Correct.
Right?
Okay.
Raj, taking it forward, uh, uh, you've been uh, well known at UiPath, RPA, robotic process automation. Robotics is a word which is known to each and every household today. But what is RPA is all about, and more specifically, uh, uh, how UiPath became a top leader on RPA today. Just tell about what is RPA, then how UiPath is happened to take up the front seat on the
Sure.
RPA.
Sure. So, like I said, sir, while when we try to expand the technology, the word which is RPA, people confuse it with physical robots. But then, what we need to understand here is RPA is the software robot. It's a personal assistant which runs on your laptops or your machines to look in, and what it does is it helps you automate repetitive tasks which can be defined. Now, I'll give you a very simple example. Now, within our program, we have we have colleges that apply for membership on our website, and once the college application is vetted, it's the responsibility of the program manager to approve it. And once it is approved, it goes to the back office, the program office team, and the program office team is supposed to enable, issue a certificate, enable the access for the faculty, and also create a couple of login IDs which are needed as part of the program, right? And this is, and if you look at today, we have about 500 odd colleges, and imagine somebody in a, somebody who's, it's just one person who's supporting a program office. It is his or her job to actually do that 500 times every time, right? And every day we get at least 5-10 applications who get vetted. So every time he or she has to actually do that same job. Now, what we've done as an example here is we've created a bot which has been which has been configured and programmed in such a way that the program office person has to come and then just click on the button, and then the bot runs, and then everything that the person has done before this is automatically done. So the bot creates a certificate, gets the name filled in, saves it in the format that we have designed, attaches it to an email, copies the body, takes the email in the to ID, attaches the, gets all the other details sent out in the other option there, and then puts a BCT to the respective program manager, and then sends a mail to the respective college that is enrolled. Now, imagine, that's what automation can actually do for somebody else, right? For somebody who is, at least for our program, that's something that we have done. And I think if you try to relate it to each one of us in each one of the activity that you do in your day-to-day life, this is exactly what a bot can actually do. If you try to analyze what you do in your 8 or 10 hours of job, there are ample number of opportunities for a bot to automate, and that for things to be automated, and that can be done by a software bot, and that is what we relate to as software robotic process automation, right? So it's a software robot which automates your process and helps you thereby, assisting you in your day-to-day activity for that. Right. So, sir, that was your first question. What was the second question, sir? I just missed while I explained the first.
No, I was telling you what was the deliveries of UiPath? What they deliver to the customers? Is it just a bot, or it is more than that?
No. So currently we, as a company, So I think the question was what makes them number one, right? So as I said, we have now moved on. We have added more capabilities into the platform. So you have you will actually be seeing new capabilities in terms of test automation coming in, right? So we've been hearing about software testing as a strong career opportunity. Now, what if a bot can help you do that, right? What if there's a capability of a robot to actually do that? And what if, I mean, there are ample instances. So if you look at finance and accounting, if you were to upload a bill or an invoice, every time the earlier what would have happened is a human being would have to tally the amount that is filled in the column, I mean in the system, to the one in the invoice, right? Now you could actually automate that same thing, right? So UiPath today actually has built that capability to automate multiple processes. So we are talking about desktop automation. We're talking about process automation. We are talking about task mining. We are getting into process automation. A lot of multiple tracks that we test automation for that to look in. So we're slowly moving into leveraging this technology into multiple platforms. What makes them very, very unique in the market space, which I think is the most relevant thing, is the easy to use concept, right? So we believe in no code or less code, which means even if you don't have a programming background, you can easily build a bot, right? If you have something running on your desktop, you don't need to depend on anybody else to do that. And that's a very powerful tool to look in, right? So say, for example, take any company for that. If you have 100,000 employees in any organization, and you have a team that is dedicated for RPA, every now and then you don't want that every employee to go back to the RPA team and tell them that, can you build a bot for me, right? The technology is built in such a way that even somebody who is interfacing on the desktop can actually drop and drag and build the entire workflow that is needed, and the bot can actually run without any much input, without any much expertise needed in the entire this thing. And I think that's what makes UiPath unique in that market space, primarily because the kind of it's basically ease of use, right? So the more easier it is used, it's for the user, the more adoption you will see, right? So that's one of the reasons we are now seeing this whole new concept of robot for every person, right? So now some of the big consultancy companies in the world are now driving this concept, saying that let me free out some work from my consultant and let me have a personal assistant. So there are ample number of companies that are slowly driving to this vision where they're saying that every employee should have a personal assistant, a robot that can run on their desktop and work with them in terms of automating their process, right? And I think that's the whole thing that is the message or the power of UiPath that people are actually taking forward for that.
Okay, oh my God. No. See, as a principal, one of the tedious job what I face in real time is that usually we have coordinators for affiliation processes. Since we are affiliated to AICT, this one job uploading all my documents to AICT, understanding their formulas and do all this stuffs. We have a dedicated person who does this, and many times we see that teacher is been overburdened with this type of jobs. I was really wondering out in case if complete one of this ASAT coordinator job has been taken away by your bot.
So I think that, yeah, it would be basically not taking away a job. It would be more of somebody assisting, right? So we have at least 2 professors that I know of who have used a bot for their MBA accreditation, right? So the documentation that you're talking about, they've actually been using that, and the bot has actually reduced a lot of their workload, right? So that's the whole the change that we are seeing, where of course the teacher is there, but then teacher has somebody to delegate that work to, right? And the teacher can focus, instead of being overburdened, the teacher can delegate it to somebody and the bot can actually work for you there. So that's the new world that we are getting into, where it's not about eliminating a job, it's about helping somebody free up lessen their burden and free up their time so that they can use their time for better quality things in life.
No, but still people have this perception in the mind wherever automation. In fact, if you go back to the history and see when banking came up, many people opposed because it is going to take away a lot of jobs. Down the line, what happened? People getting adapted to banking sector, and lot of impact had happened, more specifically on automation with respect to banking sector, either it would be retail sector, either it would be healthcare sector. The real concern with the public is wherever the automation comes, it takes away huge amount of jobs. Especially in IT sector, because RPA completely automates my development process also, and where the developers may not be required also, because it will automate all my processes. Small application developers who used to develop as a freelancer also, is that jobs will also be taken away? What is bigger picture from your end?
Yeah. So sir, as I said, the fear of a new technology, it's not fear of jobs taking over, but then every time when there is a new technology that has come in, it's always been looked upon with apprehension that it may take away jobs, right? But then what we need to understand is if it takes up, I mean, let's take a very, I mean, just to try to do it, right? So finally, what does it bring in? It brings in speed, it brings in efficiency into the system, right? And if you were to relate to actual job losses, yes, you may see some job losses going in, which may be jobs which are probably never required human intelligence for, that may actually go out. But at the same time, you may see at least about 10 times of new jobs being created, right? Because that is the opportunity that we're looking in. Because while traditional jobs or old time jobs may perish over time, but you will also see new skill sets coming in. And when you do this arithmetics of job losses to new jobs being created, you will actually weigh in big for the new jobs that is created. And that's one of the reasons across all sections of the society or across the entire working community, what we are seeing is the word reskilling and upskilling, right? How do you survive across this whole space? And you will actually survive that if you have the right skills, and if you ensure that you skill yourself to face that disruption that is there, right? And this is, I mean, it will happen because we as human beings love speed. We as human beings love efficiency, and it's our desire for more power which is actually driving, right? Now, imagine some years back we had mobile internet speed which was few Mbps to look in, right? Or I mean, rather much lesser than that. And then now look at our the speed that we talk about, right? From kbps to mbps, and now we are still not happy with what we have, right? And so you will see adoption, but then it's about you as an individual staying ahead of that curve, right? And that's where reskilling and upskilling are the much sought after things that we are looking at in the ecosystem. So just to answer that very specifically, yes, some jobs may be displaced, but then the new opportunities or new jobs that will be created will be much higher than what the jobs would be displaced for them. And the opportunity for them to pick up with the rest of the wave would be to skill them, reskill them, upskill themselves for these new technologies.
I'll come down to the next part of the question about upskilling and reskilling. I think you've been telling much about it, different platforms, and you keep on writing it in your blogs and social media about it's not about just upskilling today, it's all about reskilling. Many fundamentals will also get absolute. I think this is the statement what I see from you, what you have posted on social media. But what concerns with the tech jobs is that usually many AI driven algorithms, artificial intelligence driven algorithms, will be taking over the tech jobs, more specifically technical jobs. Are we at the risk of replaced by an algorithm? Not about the human being. I'm worried about algorithm.
No, again, as I said,
I answered last part, but very specifically tech jobs. Very specifically tech jobs.
So, sir, I think what we need to understand is the new norm is low code and no code, which means you don't need to write all those big lines of codes to actually do that. So, and that makes it much more easier for people to do that. Of course, so the new world that we will see is that yes, there will be a little bit of focus where it will move around from people to machine, where the machine or the robots, whatever form, physical or software, would take it up. But then finally, it is for the benefit of humanity, right? So it is a benefit for all users like you and me. And I think it should not be looked at as a fear, but then I think it's an opportunity that probably each one of us would have that we can look at leveraging as well.
Fine. Thank you, Rajesh. Next question is, uh, we have been debating about this for a quite long years, almost a decade. India is moving from degree-based education system to skill-based education system. I think you've been emphasizing more on the skill. In this scenario, how does the industry certification add value to the students? You've been telling about upskilling and reskilling. In this scenario, how do you feel that industry certification would add value or USP, unique selling points for their resumes, so that they can go and take up a high-paid jobs?
Yeah, so I'll it's probably a good time that we're talking about this because we just launched our certification 2 or 3 weeks back, right? And there was a lot of debate on the exam being paid, right? So till this time, UiPath had exams which were available for anybody to come and take, and then it helps. It the question that people were saying, this it was free all this time. All of a sudden, why have you moved to a paid exam? But then what I want to talk about here is, if you look at the value that an industry certification brings in, is first it brings in credibility for your exam, right? I'll give you an easy example. In our previous format of the exam that we had, we which was self-proctored, which means you can sit at home and take it, and so nobody would even check whether it is you who is taking the exam, and you can just complete the exam for that to look in, right? Now, what we realized is, while we were crawling on the web to find out if there are questions available, there were at least 40 websites, 40 to 70 websites that had the same question with every exercise that was listed there, right? Now, what that means is, even if you have a certification, it does not bring in credibility for what you've got, right? And that's one of the value add that an industry certification brings in, is there is somebody who is going to vouch for your credential, saying that, yes, if I've approved him as an associate, whatever, as a professional to look in, or an advanced, or whatever multiple levels that we're talking about, the company vouches that he has the skills that is needed. So at any time in the market, a certification from an industry, specifically a proctored exam, adds tremendous value to the CV, because since the company is vouching for, basically they vouch for your credibility, for the credential that is issued. You also have this thing that the questions don't get leaked. And if there is a scenario where the question goes out in the market, somebody or the other is there to actually ensure that this is brought back, and then the credibility is there. They replace the question paper that is there. So in terms of value, I think it adds a lot of value for your resume, and then it brings in a lot of credibility that probably you never would get by just going and talking to somebody saying that I have this professional certification from my end, right? I also want to take up, my previous employer, they have one of the topmost certifications that they have is the architect exam, right? And the architect exam is pretty expensive. People have to, and I had this question where one of the candidates said, it's pretty expensive. It is about 2 to 3 lakh rupees, or maybe more than that, for me to take up the exam. Why do you think I should make an investment, right? And the answer at that time from the expert who was there was that, will you not spend this 3 or 4 lakh rupees to go for higher studies? And what do you get in return for your higher studies? In higher studies, you would actually get a higher paid job, right? And a much better, and a better organization to look in. So he's saying, you're basically making an investment on your career by opting for a higher study. And that's the same thing that the certification brings in, right? The architect certification that they had actually brought in something that could ideally, if they would get certified, would actually take his salary 3x or 4x the next moment, right? Because that's the kind of knowledge that you have. And it's a company that is vouching for your credibility to rest of anybody else in the market. So there's nobody else in the market who can question you for the knowledge that you've gained, right? And that's the important thing of an industrial certification, right? So it is the company that is saying that, yes, he has this knowledge, and we've tested him for that. And I as an organization agree that he has this knowledge that is part of the course that is there. So I think, yes, it is very, very important. And across your career, it is also more relevant. Now it becomes even more tricky, especially in a software world. Say, for example, a lot of these software companies have 3 or 4 updates every year, right? So what that means is that if you have a certification today, you also have to make sure you update your knowledge for the next update, because the next update may not have maybe a much bigger update which probably just zeroes in for the knowledge that you have. So across your career, if you have to go get yourself recognized in the industry, it also expects you to retain or maintain that certification for that. So getting used to a certification in a college environment is a good start, but then that has to continue throughout your career, right? Because if you're working on a technology, that certification will say that yes, this person is credible in terms of the knowledge that he has for that. I hope, sir, I have answered the question that you had.
Yeah, correct. No, just to add value, what I listen to the people, what I see from social media, also that even Sundar Pichai once told about this. Uh, Google never any times looks for any official degree from the candidates. If he has a potential, Google has its own way of measuring the candidate who comes to its portal for seeking a job. So the takeaway is that probably my degree just becomes a supplement. If you have skills, you have knowledge, creativity, you can innovate. I think anybody can take up the job. Job should not at all be the problem in the next coming generations. So probably degree becomes a supplement where your skills dominates. I think this is what to summarize what Rajesh was telling it out. Thank you, Rajesh.
But
Please, yeah,
yes, sir.
please.
No. So at the same time, I don't, I personally don't believe a degree is not valid, but then I still think that it adds a lot of value, because those 4 years or 3 years, whatever you spend in your college, it's a transformation, right? You cannot sit at home and have that transformation. You still need a setup, you need an atmosphere, you need an environment that will groom you for that. So I still believe that the 3 or 4 years in your college will help you groom your career for that to look in, and plus the certification will add more values for that for them to look in.
Okay. Thank you,
All right,
Rajesh.
sir.
It's
Yeah.
my last question. Afterwards, we'll take the questions. My question
Sure.
is COVID-19 has given uh, automation boom. I think people are coming with a zero touch concept. Is it that probably this will affect too much, or it will actually create the opportunities?
No, I think COVID-19 has to be looked upon as in two aspects. One is it is driving innovation, right? So a lot of instances where we never expected our government entities to uh, uh, you know uh, take time. I mean, build. We never anticipated them to build, but then the pressure actually made sure that they were able to spend time and build that creativity and deliver in a faster or a shorter time. So in one sense, I think it has helped in bringing out a lot of creativity, and that will be a very good um, thing in terms of COVID-19 to look in. The second part that I think which is more important is, while this technology, so I talk about 4 disruptions. The first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, third, and the fourth, right? So, and the fourth industrial revolution is driven by AI and automation. Every time the industry evolved from first to second, second to third, third to fourth, it took about 10 to 15 years or 20 years for the transformation to happen. What this COVID crisis has brought in is probably that transformation for us to move to for next generation technologies with automation, AI, and others coming in will probably be shortened, right? We may not look at 10 years to happen. We may not look at 5 years to happen. We will actually probably have it in few months or a couple of years, or maybe less than a year to look at, right? And that's a huge opportunity, because while we talk about that, that also means that there are new talents that are needed. There is a huge opportunity for a country like India to contribute, because we have the youngest population. We have our the manpower of the world lying in our country, and it's all about skilling them to actually go in and grab these opportunities that are there. So yes, to some extent, it will disrupt. But then I think, sir, you should look at the positive side, which is it will open up a new set of opportunities for our young audiences, which I think they should leverage on as a career path for them as well.
Yeah, well said. I think because many people who are aspiring to take up engineering course, uh, there is some myth been in the running in the minds of the public that a lot of jobs will not be generated after COVID-19. But another part of the story is that the students who are joining now will be actually coming out after 4 years. By the time 4 years, it's a long journey. A lot of companies which are there at China, around 1,000 companies already in the pipeline to come to India, because India is one of the biggest skilled people what we have. I think opportunities, probably this could be the better opportunity for India to grab. And I want to send a message to the people through you is that uh, after 4 years, that since you join now engineering, after 4 years, there's plenty of opportunities, because automation will play the important role in each and every sector. Either it could be healthcare, either it could be retail, either it could be your whatever the sector, banking sector, insurance sector, whichever sector for that matter. Automation will be the part and parcel of the every sector for that matter. So opportunity will be plenty after next 4 years. Kindly, I personally feel that engineering will be the next boom. You should go and take for the engineering course.
Yeah.
This was yeah,
Yeah. So
Rajesh,
no.
please.
I have two things to add here. Let's look at a mechanical engineering student. Right today in the COVID crisis, all these years, personally for me, I've just been hearing about 3D printing, right? Because we've not been able to see anything practical. We've heard people doing it, but today, if you look at the face shields that are being manufactured for all our healthcare workers, these are done by college students. These are done by small startups who are using 3D printing to look in. So you will see a lot of new technologies coming in, helping mechanical engineers, electrical, civil, whatever fields to look in, and that's going to aid them and bring in more efficiency. Look at Wuhan, for instance, right? The hospital that they built was at unbelievable pace that China could actually build it, right? It's a mixture of mechanical, it's a mixture of electrical, it's civil, everything coming together with technology being used to actually set up a hospital at unprecedented time frame to look in. So you will see technology coming, as sir said, part and parcel of each of these engineering streams that will make it much more efficient to look in. And next, your 4 years of engineering should be focused on acquiring those right skills that you can help you take you find those right jobs that that are there in the industry. Yeah. So
Bring to the notice of all the speakers, all the participants here, that East Point College of Engineering and Technology, as an academic alliance with UiPath, very recently Rajesh Nambiar and came and inaugurated our Center of Excellence UiPath, where students can work on UiPath tools and get ready for the job. This is one supplement skills what we are adding in our complete industry institute integrated learning for programs umbrella. UiPath is more vertical. Uh, we are very thanks to Rajesh Nambiar for believing in trusting us and coming out and giving the Center of Excellence to East Point College of Engineering and Technology.
absolutely.
Rajesh, trust us. I think we are on the process of generating a lot of industry UiPath certifications from our college. I think in down the line in next 1 or 2 months, we see huge number of certification comes from East Point College of Engineering and Technology, which in turn takes them to the one of the best jobs in the IT industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Rajesh, thank you so much. Very kind of you for taking your time. I think we'll start taking the questions.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Question is, will RPA take away jobs of humans specifically to testing?
No, as I said, do not look at technology as an apprehension. Look at it as an enabler, right? So it will not take out jobs. It will just help you improve your capability in terms of what you've been doing, and it will help you improvise your capability for that to look at. So I think the whole approach here is to look at it as an enabler rather than a technology that will come and eliminate your existing work. So I think if you have that approach, that should the question should not come into your mind at all for that, right? So that's my answer there.
I think there is some topped up. Sudha Sidrali Kukitar, what are the roles available in the industry for this profile?
So if you specifically talk about RPA, since the discussion is around RPA, what I wanted to talk about, I'll give you an example. So when I joined one and a half years back, the number, and when you search for RPA related jobs on LinkedIn, the number of jobs are very minimal, right? You just had people. I mean, because the technology was just being adopted, you had more people adopting the technology for that. Now, what has happened in the last 1.5 or 2 years to look in, the technology has got adopted. The product as such has been getting adopted in a big manner, and you're seeing more and more jobs coming in, right? So one good thing about all these new generation software companies is that if $4, I mean, I always give this analogy. If $4 is being spent on this technology, $1 goes on to the product, and the rest of the $3 actually goes into services around that. So you're looking at $3 being spent, 75% of that spend going out to to individuals who are creating apps, who are building on top of these platforms to look at, right? And traditionally, if one of the hottest in our industry is an RPA developer, which is one of the strongest profiles in our ecosystem. It is slowly climbing up the ladder in terms of salaries and others. The latest LinkedIn report for India for 2020, the hottest job had at least about two RPA related jobs in that, and one is the architect, and the other one was the developer in that to look in. Now, beyond that, we also have roles that are more for business analysts, because you need to play around with data, right? And it's always been a Herculean task for a data scientist or a business analyst to play around with data. So a software robot working on their machine, helping people automate that, is something that has been looked upon as an enabler. So you're seeing RPA related business analyst roles coming into the market space to look in. And there are a few other roles that are coming in. But then what we are now, I mean, predominantly, as I said, the hottest career for a country like India has always been software development, has been development, and RPA developer is one of the hottest career opportunities that is coming in the ecosystem too.
Thank you. I think you have answered one of the question. I think, can someone else hack the programmed bot?
Yeah, so that has been I mean, that's been something that's been there at the early stages of the technology adoption, but now the technology has matured to a level that you don't have to worry about hacking or your data going out, right? So most of the technology vendors who are working in RPA space have all been approved by all the best of the best security for policies that primarily drive, or certified by security policies that drive as equivalent as NASA or FBI to look in, right? So all those security concerns have all been taken out over the years. And remember, at the end of the day, the software, the bot is lying on your machine. Unless somebody comes to your machine and hacks, things would not happen for that. So you can't have somebody coming out in the internet and then getting in. But then it's still difficult. But as I said, as they say in security world, you can not. I mean, you cannot probably send out an intruder, but then you can try to reduce the impact that is there. But then we've not had any instances where a bot has been hacked and then has actually gone violent and then created unwanted things. We've not seen that at all for this thing to look in. And I think the certifications from NASA and others actually make it more equivalent to look in. I actually see a question also, sir. I probably see a question which says, can we automate mobile applications using UiPath? So this question is from Chaitanya. I think so we've not moved to that level where this can be moved to a mobile application. Remember, this is still an enterprise level application, right? So it's supposed to be running on your PCs or your servers to look in. So we've not moved. The technology has not matured to a level that it could automate things on your mobile phone. The phase that we've got into is where you can sit at home and run a bot that is there somewhere else on some other machine, right? So on a mobile application, you can you can look at the bot that are configured to your account, and then from a mobile device you can run that bot. But then it's not specifically come down onto a mobile level. But then I think the technology will evolve to probably address that at some point of time or the other.
Okay, I think Balkrishna Reddy, I think, can we create bot for WhatsApp, Facebook, and other social apps?
So it's I actually think it's left for your creativity to do. One of the big examples that my colleague keeps giving out is you've had this MI phone and other phone sales that happen on Flipkart and Amazon, right? There's a specific time period where it is there, and then it goes stock out, out of shelf within no time, right? And so you can, I mean, there are students who've actually created a bot which first tells you when this is ready for sale, and then it automatically pushes it into your cart, and then you go ahead and complete the transaction for that to look in, right? And there are other cases where you probably are looking for a phone, and then the bot can also go on the internet and find out which website has the applications to do it. And then on Facebook, a very simple use case that I think which I leave it beyond that, I leave it for your imagination, could be on your timeline every day morning you have an alert that says these many number of people have their birthdays today, right? Instead of you going out every day and wishing them, why don't you create a personalized message, configure the bot to actually go out and say that, okay, 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, please go to my Facebook profile, run this exercise of going out and seeing whose birthday is it, and please go and send out a personalized message to them, right? So I think it's your imagination in terms of what you could actually do with the bot, and then once you acquire that skill, it's that potential. So again, coming back to that question where a student said, can we do it for a mobile device, I'll actually leave it for you to decide on how you would want to actually do it, right? But for me, so I leave it for your imagination to explore what a bot can do, and that's something that we've been trying. In fact, the center that sir said they have in a college, the whole idea is to also build creativity and thinking within students, right? We want them to explore. Yes, you've learned what the bot can do, you understand what the technology is. Next, we want you to tinker your thinking and start building that solution for you to look at, right? So I think the answer for that is your imagination, and it's for you to decide how best the technology would work on your platform, right? Or come to your assistance for that to look at.
No, but whether UiPath tool will enable for that type of application where I can create a bot on Facebook and check all.
Yeah. So yes, sir. So just to answer that, so when we came up with this technology, two things that we committed to the ecosystem. One was we said we'll make our software free. So we have a community edition which is available for you to download on your machine. You don't have to pay any money. You don't have to. It's equivalent to, it has the latest functionalities and feature, and it is for your personal use. So if you want to run it on your personal laptop, you're free to download that on your machine and then explore the tool. Now when you have a new technology, you also need to learn it, right? You need a platform where I could go and learn this technology. So what we did is we created this whole learning platform called UiPath Academy, where we've actually pumped in hundreds and thousands of dollars free of cost training available for you to do, right? So when we created this technology, we said, yes, software we'll give it for free, the learning also will be available for free. And to complement all this thing, we also have a bigger community where anytime you are stuck, you could go and ask questions, and somebody or the other could help you answer. The community that we've created is called UiPath Forum, where you could go in and post your questions, and somebody from the community can help you answer that. And this is the new world of learning that we're getting in, right? So my other solution in terms of what COVID could bring in is also create opportunities for youngsters or new generation students to look at these technologies, as a self-learning, as an enabler for you, right? So rather than depending on somebody to come and sit in a class and explain to you, you have online forums and platforms where you could go in and go in and create that aspects for you to look.
Since just to add on to what Rajesh told, one of the developer community person who is an RPA developer, my students started posting questions on that. We are privileged to have him, and he started telling that we'll conduct one complete session. He did 3 days session, full pledge, 8 hours per day for my students, where my around 21 students of my college participated. What I want to bring to the notice of the people is that for all the engineering students and the students who are aspiring to take up engineering, it's not about only classroom learning today. there are plenty of developers at the back end, and we have a technology which will actually create an interface for us to go and approach to the developers. Any doubts we have, it's not just the teachers who is going to actually answer all my questions. It's we can go and directly interact with the developer, and UiPath actually facilitates an interface for us to go and interact with them. And amazing learning, blended learning is coming to the picture. And good thing is that all academicians and all institutions are exploring all these options in this COVID-19 time. It's something, it has opened up lot of things that where academics have explored. uh,
Absolutely.
la- yes, Raj. Yeah, I have one question. I think it is Saurav. uh, can you suggest some certification to build my professional career? Is there any, you want to have a career path? What is could be the career path?
Yeah. So
Or if I
as I
want to take
said,
up RPA as a career path?
yeah, as I said, RPA developer is the hottest technology in the market today, and we have two certifications which are aligned with it. We have one, which is the associate exam, which is basically a foundation for a student to start off. Uh, so the certification is proctored, which means you have to go to a testing center, or in the current crisis, you have to sit at home and then you can take it within your premises. So the ideal recommendation for a student at this time is to start off with an associate exam. The exam is priced at about $150 for the market, and we offer a 50% discount for universities. So if you are a college student, you could actually take the certification as part of it, right? So you would be able to, and since your college, since East Point is already part of the program, the benefit of a 50% discount on the certification can be extended to your university, to your college for that. So you can leverage that, talk to your faculty coordinator, and then see how you could actually leverage that thing. Okay. So that is the answer. I mean, that I hope is the answer to your question.
Yeah.
And yeah, so do visit uipath.com/certification
Yes.
for any additional information that you may want to. So go ahead.
Fine. We have one of a professor as a question, whether personal assistant is enabled for taking decisions. Is it enabled intelligent instead of doing mundane sorting jobs?
So sir,
That's what UiPath does.
yeah. So there are. I mean, there would be instances. Again, the robot or the bot will work on based on what workflow you've designed. So if you're able to give the logic, logic for it, if you're able to give it the scenarios, say yes or no, what happens, you should be able to have the bot work exactly the way it wants. Now there would be instances where the bot itself would be confused. I'll give you a very simple example where let's say the bot is reading a receipt which is uploaded, right? And there is probably a difference between the amount that has been entered and then what it has on the on the receipt. So at these times, the bot would alert the human on the other side, saying that, hey, here I am stuck with this problem. Why don't you help me solve this, right? And this is what we try to call, saying that it's human in the loop, where the automation happens, but then situations where the bot is not able to infer what is the outcome, the bot actually goes out and brings the human back into the system and says, help me resolve this, right? So once the human says that, yes, this is a solution, or this is the second one is a solution, the bot goes back and completes the automation that is there, right? So that intelligence is there. Wherever you are stuck, the bot will come back to a human and then say, okay, please help me clarify this question which is come up, whether am I correct or am I actually doing wrong for that.
Okay, here is another question. Niranjan Rao. Do you suggest any particular graduation level to take up your course?
No, so as I said, the new world that most of the software companies are getting into is low code, no code, which means you just need basics of, you primarily have to have basic programming skills, and then look at how you are able to apply the logics, right? So as long as you're able to do both of them, I think anybody can actually take up these skills for that to look, right? And if you look at typically, this has been my experience in my previous roles as well. When a new technology comes in, it is looked up as an opportunity by typically non-engineering students, right? So what happens is you will see a lot of non-engineering students going and grabbing that technology because that's a new hot opportunity for them. And basically that means that engineering graduates don't look at it, lose out on that opportunity for that to look at, right? But then if you evaluate or do the comparison, the technology is easy to learn. It will require your skills at some point of time, whatever you've learned in your engineering or in your in your graduation, and apply it together for you to look at. So I don't think whether being any graduate, but then as long as your foundations are strong, you should be able to easily move and transition into a RPA related role.
Okay, thank you, Rajesh. There is another question now. Any online sessions related to this currently available so that it will be more beneficial?
Yeah, so that's so we have our platform, which is academy.uipath.com, and we understand that in this new world you still need. So we will have we are planning for live sessions to come in, and hopefully in the next coming weeks you will see more sessions coming in from us. And I think personally for me, I love the whole Facebook Live Q&A session. So maybe we'll also work on that. So what I request you to do is, of course, follow your college page, but then also look at following UiPath Academic Alliance page and stay connected with us in terms of what's happening, and you will be able to get more information related to things that are happening there. Right, so you will see more information coming in from our.
Yeah, there is another question, Rajesh. Can RPA course be implemented? Help in robotics field. Probably is feeling robotics means people think in something. Whether this RPA course will help for the student who is passionate about robotics.
No, so I my answer there is you should look at it as a technology which will become a life skill, right? So let's I mean we keep hearing our CEO talk about this every time. See, when Bill Gates started Microsoft, and he came up with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other technologies. What it happened, I mean, what it evolved to is that it has actually become a life skill for everybody, right? The philosophy of Microsoft success has been that it enabled people, it became a life skill. So today, by default, when you have a computer or a PC, the first few set of technologies or skills that you gain is Excel, PowerPoint, whatever application that run on your operating system to look at. So you have to look at RPA as a similar technology, which is a life skill, which will help you in what you could do, right? So if you are learning physical robotics, it could probably help you in some phase of your design stage, which I think which I would want to leave it to you in terms of your imagination to drive it. The easiest thing, being a mechanical engineer, the easiest thing that I could relate to is analytics, right? There are stress analysis that civil engineers do, mechanical engineers do on different parts, and that would mean that they have to go to each granule, each mesh, and then start doing the analysis. So there are instances where you could actually have a bot do that same job for you, right? Instead of you going and doing that same repetitive job, you can actually have a bot do that same, and that's the whole potential, right? So the answer would be that there is opportunity, it is a life skill, but then how do you do it will be once you start exploring that technology. And that same applies for every time when I get questions on cyber security, on security aspect. I personally believe that's a huge opportunity for security and RPA to work together, right? Because there are instances where you, in a command center, you don't have somebody monitoring what is happening, but then you could actually have a robot monitor that and take the first preventive steps in a command center for somebody to look, right? And that same applies for every technology that is there. And as I said, you will have to explore. You'll have to, only when you feel what is the technology, you'll start tinkering your minds to see what it can actually grow up or become later for all of you to look at adopting.
Oh, thank you, Raj. There is one professor, Nagveni Madam. I think I know her, Madam. I think good. Thank you, Nagveni Madam. She has come and enrolled for. She has a question: how to enroll for UiPath certification courses? She's head of the department for Acharya Institute of Technology.
Acharya, that's okay. So, ma'am, my request for you is to sign up on UiPath Academic Alliance, look for the portal. There is an application form where you have to agree to joining the offering this course as in whatever form, right? So we'll invest. Our investment would be in terms of investing in terms of enabling you. We'll give you the courseware. Our only request is, or the request from our end is that what we expect from you is to go back and teach it to your student. So as long as you are committed to do that, you're free to join. Just look for your UiPath Academic Alliance, submit the application. Yeah, submit the application, and then you could, our program manager can connect with you and share more. In fact, we have a classroom happening with about 80 classes. The good thing for us was, with the new COVID crisis, has been that we are a very small team. We only have one trainer, and we had to, every time we had to do a class, the trainer was very constantly telling us that give me a small class. Give me a 12 to 15 member class rather than having a 40 or 50 people sitting in my class, right? But today, coincidentally, when we started the class yesterday, we have close to about 80 registrations, and all 80 are learning with us. All 80 are learning with us in a 2-week virtual class, mix of a blended learning, and we are using learning platforms like Google Classroom to help you enable that. So we as a company have also, as a program, have also started leveraging some of the new latest technologies which are enabling teachers to teach and better enable that. So anytime the next class gets announced, you could also sign up and complete the pre-requirements that is needed for that. Yes.
Okay. Bal Krishna, is RPA only meant for creating personal bots, or can we create some simple search engines just like Google?
So if you want if you want the bot to go out and scrape data from the website, you can actually do that, right? You can actually do that, and that's, like I said, it's your capability, right? It's more of a UI. Whatever you replicate on your browser, on your desktop, can be actually replicated by a bot. So if you personally go to Google search and then export the data onto an Excel sheet, you can actually get the bot to actually do that same thing for you there. Right. So the answer is yes. You can create personalized bots which can do tasks that you want to assign to.
I think again I have another question from Shiva sir. If you build soft bot for taking attendance regularly in the class, what are the inputs should I feed to it?
So,
I
sir,
think we should develop this small bot at my college itself. My students
so
are capable to do this, sir. Now I want to bring to your notice, my students are trained on to do this job now.
So
Yes,
I have I think I leave it for you to create. As I said, the technology is easy. It's easy for you to learn. It's easy for you to adopt. So I leave it for you to do. But then we've used cases where teachers have attendance being sent out to parents. So there is a professor in Hyderabad who has to send out a report to parents every week on the performance of the student, right? And he does not do it all this time. He has been doing it manually, but now what he has done is he assigned a bot, and he just activates the bot, and bot sends out the report to all the parents for that to look at. So it is for you and your imagination to build in, right? So anything that you've been, I would just want to bring it up saying that anything that has pained you in terms of saying that, oh, it's the same job that I've been doing for so many years, give it to the bot, right? Outsource it to the bot, let the bot do it, and let your students do it. So I have had a question of a student saying, can we do internships there? So the answer to you is, you should actually take up internship inside your college, right? And look, helping your teacher, your faculty, your HODs automate some examination department, help them solve the problem that they've been facing. Take time to identify what their problems are, and then go back and work together to get that bot built for them there.
Yeah. Another question from Pooja. Is the bot able to meet performance for applications with many users because it uses existing modules rather than dedicated design for individual applications?
No, I didn't understand the question, sir. Is the bot able to meet performance for applications with many users?
Using existing models rather than dedicated design for individual applications.
Yeah, so you have the flexibility to build your own workflows, right? So the workflow that you create is what the bot actually executes. So you have the opportunity to actually leverage the bot to what you define. So the answer would be that it is your workflow that you design. So the bot would be ideally be able to be capable to do it, right? So, and the community edition has a couple of bots assigned to you, so you can try out how the bots perform. I don't think you would actually have a performance issue as long as you're able to define the. It's a very simple process, right? So you're telling that you have to do A, B, C, D, and you just click and start. The bot would go and do that steps. If it is stuck somewhere, it will come back to you saying that I'm not able to understand, and you have to help the bot understand and interpret what that problem is for them.
Okay. Another question is, how is RPA different from DevOps?
Yeah, so I would not look at RPF. I don't want it does not even there's no comparison between DevOps and RPA at all. But then it could be looked upon as as a technology that could probably be a enabler for you in terms of your DevOps operation, right? So if you are a DevOps engineer, RPA can actually be an enabler for you in terms of your day-to-day activity for that. So it could be an enabler to rather. There is no direct comparison that you can actually draw between RPA and what you do with DevOps. So it could be an enabler. As I said, if you're a DevOps engineer, it could be an enabler for you.
Enable for us. Okay, Rajesh, I think I took a lot of your time. There are a lot of questions getting poured away now. Is Google Form a soft bot in a rudimentary way at least?
I could not understand the question, or maybe I.
Yes, I think there is some more questions. How difficult is to learn RPA for non-technical graduates?
Good question. So we are driving this vision of one robo for every student, right? We're driving this question of one robo for every student, which means one robo for every person, which means everybody in the company would have the capability to build a bot. So last year or early this year, UiPath built in a new capability called UiPath Studio X, which does not require any single line of code. It just requires you to build your workflow with very simple steps. So you drop and drag and build your workflow, and I think that is doable for anyone, right? So as long as you are able to if you are able to understand what technology is, you would be understand the functionalities. You should be able to drop and drag and create a bot by yourself. So it is for everyone. It is for everyone who knows to use a computer or a laptop. And that's the beauty of the technology, right? It's as I said, it's a technology that will help or enable everybody to do it.
Yes. Okay, Rajesh, I think I know that you are tired today. Good, Rajesh. I think thank you so much. But I want to bring to the notice of the engineering students who are aspiring to take up engineering courses. It's a great time. Hello. One second. Yeah, Rajesh is back. Fine. I want to bring to the notice of all the participants, engineering, more specifically the students who want to take up engineering course or engineering as a career to join for the engineering colleges. It's not about just the university certifications today. You need to check it out. What about a lot of industry courses is it run in my institute? So in East Point College of Engineering and Technology, we have created a exclusive industry institute integrated learning programs where under this umbrella, plenty of companies we have taken up. UiPath is one vertical what we are running, and we have a lot of students who are taking up all these technologies. It could be Salesforce, it could be UiPath, it could be AWS, it could be Google Cloud, it could be Cisco, it could be plenty other programs. Okay, I think if you are really interested to know more about East Point College of Engineering and Technology and how actually we are adding value with industry certifications, kindly ping to my admission team. We're ready to help you out. Okay. Is Let me check it out on my chat box if there is some other questions for Rajesh. Yeah, there's some question. Sir, there is one question. How the suggested course or certification can help the weaker students in engineering course about 25%, whether they can succeed in these courses and get benefited?
Yeah, so the answer was you basically don't pay anything for learning the course, right? So everything is on the internet, on our platform, on our academy. So you can go there and learn. So you basically don't pay anything for learning, right? Second part there is as long as the students are able to qualify all the pre-requirements for an industry jobs, then I think they should be able to do. The 50% discount is basically a morale booster for the students to um, uh, basically a basically a morale booster for the student in terms of understanding what is the opportunity that the market can actually give it. So I think, sir, the only investment that they may have to do is for the credential. And since I understand there is a cost involved in that, but then I would personally suggest I would actually recommend students to make that investment because the technology is at a very early stage of adoption, which means the opportunities are huge, and you have to make that investment on your career, right? So that's the whole. I mean, my answer would be that it is an investment that you're making in the career. It's a very early stage for adoption.
Okay. Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Rajesh. We'll conclude. Thanks for your time. I know that you have been busy with a lot of calls today, but
No
still,
problem.
thank you so much. And very hats off to you people. I think you personally add up a lot of value to teaching fraternity and student community. You are very passionate about bringing values to both students and teaching fraternity. Your mission to bring one bot to each student or one human being. Let this mission be successful at the earliest. Thank you so much for your time, Rajesh.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And once again, namaste and namaskara to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice of you. Thank you, Rajesh. Bye.